Hey everyone, RogueGold here, and today I'm bringing you my non-spoiler early review of The Division Hunted. This is the latest novel for the Division franchise, the third and final entry to conclude the Crossroads Saga, and boy, do I have some things to say about this one. Firstly, though, before any of that, I have to give a big thanks to the folks at Aconite and NetGalley for this opportunity and for giving me access to this review copy. The Division Hunted, written by Thomas Parrott, launches officially in global ebook formats on January 2nd, 2024. That very same day for paperback formats in the US, and then paperback formats in the UK on March 28th. I will leave a link to the book down below in case you want more information or want to pre-order it, and I will also link the first two books in the series. As I mentioned, this is the closing chapter of a trilogy, and if you're somebody who cares about the Division story and follows along with the game's current timeline, and you want to dive deeper into some epic adventures and get teases of what's to come, then I highly suggest you check out Recruited, Compromised, and now Hunted. Again, links for all three down below. This review will be completely spoiler-free for Hunted, aside from what has already been released about the plot officially. However, I can't guarantee that I won't reference parts of the first two books, so if you're sensitive to spoilers on those, then be warned. Let me start off, as I like to do, by reading the synopsis of Hunted. Division agent Myra Conhai is alive. Myra has gone rogue. When Brenda Wells learns that her old recruits and close friends' watches turned red, she refuses to believe it. Yet the agents sent to track Myra down have irrefutable evidence suggesting otherwise. With the threads holding the division together fraying under heavy assault, Brenda desperately assembles a specialized division cell to head out and learn the truth. In the blistering heat of the American Southwest, they face grave danger at every turn. There, they learn that other deadly parties are stalking Myra too, hoping to use her to destroy the division once and for all. Now, Compromised, the second book in the series, ended on a pretty big cliffhanger, as I'm sure those of you who read it are aware. The synopsis here begins to tease how that will all play out and pay off, but man, I know this is a very cliche thing to say, but you will be hooked from the very first page. Hunted wastes no time taking anyone who's a Division fan and yanking them right into the story. But the thing that I think surprised and pleased me the most about Hunted was how thorough and well balanced it felt, right? I think from the moment the title of the novel was shared and then we got our first look at the cover art, everybody knows that the hunters are going to be involved here to some degree. And for game fans, that's electrifying. We all freaking love the hunters. But despite being given access to some of the franchise's most exclusive and exciting content in that regard, Hunted doesn't suddenly devolve into 300 plus pages of fan service. Rather, it utilizes those elements in exhilarating and compelling ways, but it also serves, as it should, as an immensely satisfying and fulfilling finale to this Crossroads trilogy, with callbacks, tie-ins, and payoffs for many of the major storylines from the first two books. And as I said, I really appreciate that. It would have been so easy to just overindulge on the fan servicey potential, but Hunted is very intentional, very meticulous, so as to make every chapter and every page both exciting and fulfilling to the story of these books and characters. But let's get into a few more specifics, shall we? Firstly, it's no surprise if you've read Recruited or Compromised, the detail and accuracy of the world, locations, gear, tech, enemies, absolutely everything. Thomas has done a stellar job from day one of making these novels feel like they're ripped right out of the mythology of the games, and Hunted is no exception. In fact, I would say it gets to excel even further in some very chilling ways. Another element that really enthralled me, the pacing and the general narrative structure. Hunted takes a slightly different approach to how it tells its story compared to the first two books, and I think that pays off in major ways. Not that the series has ever really needed extra help in making people wanting to turn the page, but the way that Hunted conveys its events and reveals information, it makes the book in your hand feel like a puzzle that you need to turn 10 different ways to solve. And that grip that the story had on me was a really fun time. And as I said, the pacing as well. From the first page to the closing chapter, Hunted wastes none of its runtime. Recruited and Compromised did all of the heavy lifting, right? They introduced the world, who these agents are, their objectives, backstories, conflicts. And that means that Hunted gets to go full throttle and act as that finale event that it really deserves to be. Speaking to the characters, if you grew attached to any of the characters from the first two books, then rest assured that they're as good here as they've ever been. The rapport and camaraderie between the cell is just as entertaining as adventures past. If I had to give any critique to the story, I would say that, while this part is factual, Hunted deals with more central protagonists than any of the past books, and so it's only natural that each gets a little bit less time in the spotlight in order to allow each of the others to breathe. However, I never found that to be in disservice to their characters, and it was really great to see everybody band together for this one final adventure. And as the synopsis reveals, Brenda is back as a central character after being mostly absent from Compromised, and so that was really personally fulfilling, as she was my favorite from Recruited. And I don't know, I don't want to say too much. This book absolutely deserves to be read with as little knowledge as possible heading into it. I suppose the one other thing I will say, again, spoilers for Compromised if you have not read that book takes place in roughly April of 2017, I think would be the correct year. Basically 6 months after Recruited, which that book lines up with where the Division 2's current timeline is at with Year 5. So it should be of no surprise that given this is a continuation and a sequel, Hunted takes place even further into the future. And I know I stressed how fun and fulfilling Compromised was to read as a game fan to see some of those cool things that they explored there. Hopefully if you read it you agree. But, and please believe me, I say this without exaggeration, if you follow along with the Division 2 story, you care about the overall plot and lore and where things are headed for the franchise, I think it is vital for you to read The Division Hunted. I will not elaborate any further than that, but whether you read the first 2 books first, obviously I think you'll get a better experience that way if you do, or if you just want to pick up Hunted, it just did such a good job, like I said, of paying off this trilogy's storylines, delivering an epic finale, and ultimately it felt like a must-read chapter of the Division franchise's story. I'll leave things off with this, and trust me, I've spent the entire time from when I finished the book to making this review considering this before I say it, but in my opinion, The Division Hunted is the best transmedia project in the franchise. So I'm not trying to compare either of the 2 games to it, those are very different mediums, but as far as all of the novels, graphic novels, comic books, the various little web series we've gotten, Hunted is the very best the Division has ever offered beyond the games. And I really can't wait for it to come out to find out if you all agree with me on that. My friends, that is going to do it for my early review of The Division Hunted. I very much hope you enjoyed. Once again, I will remind you that the book officially releases right at the new year, and you can wishlist and pre-order it at the link down in the description. I'm super excited for everybody to get their hands on it, and I'm so pleased as a fan of this franchise that we now have this complete trilogy of books that I think are such perfect complements to the game universe, and that ultimately delivered on the promise of what that could be. So I have to give a big thank you to Thomas for the awesome stories and adventures you've provided this community in these books. Thanks again to Aconite and NetGalley for this opportunity, and comment down below on what your predictions and hopes are for The Division Hunted. That is going to do it for me today, everybody. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. RogueGold. Ow.